Okay, so have you ever tried to make some huge, life-altering change only to find yourself right back where you started a few weeks later? Yeah, me too. Today we're diving into James Clear's Atomic Habits because it flips that whole idea on its head. It argues that real, lasting change, it doesn't come from one giant leap. It comes from the compounding power of hundreds of tiny, almost invisible decisions you make every single day.
So, what if the secret to getting incredible results wasn't some massive, heroic effort? What if it was smaller? It really all boils down to this one number. The whole idea is if you can just get 1% better each day, by the end of the year, you're not just a little better, you are literally 37 times better. It's kind of mind-blowing math, right? And it's all powered by these tiny, consistent gains.
Right, so this isn't about those overnight success stories. It's all about the magic of compounding. You know, like how money earns interest in the bank? Your habits do the exact same thing. A small positive habit can grow into something absolutely amazing over time. But here's the warning, it works both ways. A tiny bad habit, it can quietly eat away at your progress in the exact same way. Everything multiplies.
Let me put it another way. Think about a plane taking off. If it shifts its course by just a few degrees, a change you'd barely even notice, over that long journey, it's not going to land a little bit off course. It's going to land in a completely different city. And that is exactly how our habits work. A tiny shift you make in your daily choices today can put you in a wildly different place 5 or 10 years from now.
So how does this all actually work? Inside our heads, well, it turns out that every single habit you have, good or bad, from brushing your teeth to compulsively checking your phone, is run by the same simple 4-step loop that just hums along in the background.
Picture this. You're walking down the street, minding your own business, and then, bam, you smell fresh samosas. That smell? That's a cue. It's the trigger that kicks off this whole process in your brain, and most of the time you don't even realize it's happening. It's the first domino to fall in a sequence that pretty much runs on autopilot.
And here's that whole loop laid out. First, you get the cue, that delicious smell. That triggers a craving. Ooh, I want that. The craving then motivates a response. You walk over and buy a samosa. And finally, the response delivers the reward, that warm, satisfying taste. That reward tells your brain, hey, remember this, let's do that again. That 4-step pattern, cue, craving, response, reward, it's the engine behind all of it.
Okay, so if that's the engine, how do we get behind the wheel? This is where it gets really practical. James Clear gives us what he calls an operating manual for our own habits, the 4 laws of behavior change. And each law is basically a lever we can pull to hijack a specific part of that habit loop we just talked about.
All right, law number 1 targets the very first step, the cue. The idea here is to stop relying on pure willpower and instead just redesign your environment. So let's say you want to start running in the mornings. Don't just hope you feel motivated. Actually put your running shoes right by the front door. You're making the cue to run so obvious, it's basically impossible to ignore.
Next up, we hack the craving. How do you make something you have to do feel like something you want to do? Well, there's this cool strategy called temptation bundling. It's where you pair an action you love with a habit you need to build. For example, you only let yourself listen to your absolute favorite podcast while you're on the treadmill. See, you're making the craving for exercise way more attractive. Law 3 is all about the response. And the logic is simple. The easier a habit is to do, the more likely you are to actually do it. This is where the famous 2-minute rule comes in. Want to read more books? Just start by reading 1 page a night. That's it. Want to exercise? Your first step is just to put on your workout clothes. The whole point is to make starting so ridiculously easy that you can't say no. That small action is everything.
And finally, we gotta close the loop with the reward. Here's the thing about our brains. They love immediate gratification. So for a habit to really stick, it needs to feel successful right away. A great way to do this is to track it visually. Maybe every time you finish a workout, you move a marble from one jar to another. That tiny, satisfying action gives your brain a little hit of dopamine and reinforces the whole loop for next time.
So here it is, the whole framework in one place. To build a good habit, you make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And what if you want to break a bad habit? Well, you just flip it. You make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. It's such a powerful and honestly a beautifully simple system when you see it all laid out like this.
But wait, there's actually a deeper level to all of this. These 4 laws, they're the how-to, they're the mechanics. but they're not the secret sauce that makes the change actually last. For that, we have to go a layer deeper, beyond just our actions, and talk about something way more fundamental, our identity.
And this really boils down to a huge shift in how we think about progress. We need to focus less on goals and more on systems. See, a goal is a temporary result, right? Like run a marathon. But a system is the process you follow. It's the collection of daily habits that turns you into a runner. One is about crossing a finish line. The other is about who you are becoming.
And think about this for a second, because it's a really powerful idea. Winners and losers often have the exact same goals. I mean, every single athlete at the Olympics wants to win a gold medal. Every person applying for a job wants to get it. The goal itself isn't what separates them. What makes the difference is their commitment to a system of constant, tiny improvements that make success pretty much inevitable.
You can actually picture change happening on 3 levels. Most of us, we try to change from the outside in. We start with the outcome we want, like, I want to lose weight. But Clear argues that the most powerful, lasting change happens from the inside out. It doesn't start with what you want to achieve, it starts with who you believe you are.
So at the end of the day, real behavior change is identity change. The goal isn't just to do a thing, it's to become a type of person. Every single action you take is like casting a vote for the person you want to be. When you write one page, you're casting a vote that says, I am a writer. When you run for 1 mile, you're casting a vote for, I am a runner.
Now, all this sounds great, but is this framework the whole story for every single person? To really get the full picture, we got to look at these ideas with a bit of a critical eye and think about the world they operate in.
For instance, an academic review from the International Journal of Social Impact puts the book into a broader context, and while it gives a ton of praise for making these complex psychological ideas so easy to understand, it also points out some pretty important limitations to the whole framework.
So the main critique suggests the book puts a really heavy focus on individual responsibility, which can sometimes overlook bigger, systemic barriers like poverty or not having access to the right resources. It's also written from a very Western, individualistic point of view, and some readers feel like the main ideas get repeated quite a bit. Now, this doesn't mean the advice is bad, not at all. It just frames it as a really good tool for changing the things that are within your personal control.
So I think the big takeaway here is this. Atomic Habits is an absolutely fantastic, practical guide for getting a handle on your own behavior. It's a powerful operating manual for you, but it's important to see it for what it is. One really, really good tool in a much bigger toolbox for building a good life. One that also has to account for the world we all live in.
So let's end with a question for you. If it's true that our environment shapes our habits and our habits shape who we become, what's one tiny atomic change you could make to your physical space, like right now, to cast a vote for the person you truly want to be?